Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Beat, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Torres. I'll be your host today, joined by my co-host, Dave Funnel. Also joined today by someone who I consider one of our other co-hosts. He's been on so many times. We love having him on, and he's given us a lot of great information over the past couple years, and I'm sure he's going to provide more today. We're joined by Jack Sommers. He's a Diamondbacks beat writer at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI, also the co-host of the Snakes Territory podcast. Happy to have you back on, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing great. Fantastic to be back with you guys. I kind of feel like one of those frequent guests on one of the old, talk shows or something, where they used him later as a, guest host. So
yeah, I mean, it's basically, it's gotten to that point. Dave actually pointed out this is your fifth time on the show.
There you go.
So that is
the Five Timers Club.
The Five Timers Club. That's a big deal. Definitely, you are the sole member of that club. So congratulations on that. But let's get right into it. There's a lot to talk about with this Diamondbacks team, especially this time of year. With the trade deadline coming up. I know this is a super busy time for you, and especially just given the Diamondbacks' current position and them likely looking as sellers. I'm going to ask you more what your thoughts are, but I guess what do you see them doing at the deadline? Do you see them? Are they definitely sellers? Is there a chance that maybe if they have a good week that things might change and maybe they try to make a run at the wild card? And if they are sellers, who are some players that you could see potentially being on the move?
Sure. Well, they're definitely sellers.
Okay.
They even made that clear today. The president and CEO, Derek Hall, was on the radio, and he pretty much said that they have no choice at this point. And that's been pretty obvious for a while. They had swept the Cardinals, so there was this little flicker of hope that, okay, if they could do the same with the Astros, then maybe there's a world where they kind of flip it around and, do some kind of hybrid buy-sell. They still may do that, but the only way for them to proceed forward as a buyer would have been to sell off some, fairly substantial prospect capital and go get relievers, right? Because the bullpen's been completely decimated. We'll talk about that in a minute, I guess. But even that seems like pretty far-fetched at this point. The only question is, how hard will they sell? They have 7 free agents that are pending, right? That will be free agents at the end of 2025. That includes Eugenio Suarez, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Josh Naylor, and then also Shelby Miller, Jalen Beeks, and Randall Grichuk are free agents at the end of the year. And Lourdes Gurriel Jr. has one more year. He has an opt-out, but he has one more year on his deal, and he very well may be on the block as well. So I don't think they're going to trade all of these guys. They're not looking to do that, but they're probably going to trade several of them, and it's going to depend on return. I think they're going to hold the line. They're not just going to sell for the sake of selling and take back a bunch of A-ball pitchers. They want major league or close to major league ready pitching. They might actually go in on a couple of position players and then kind of refigure it out at the end of the season, into next off season. But they're not going to sell low, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned Gino Suarez as someone potentially on the move. If you had to guess, who do you think are the top 3 that you see as most likely to move at the deadline?
Well, Gino Suarez is almost universally ranked as, the top get. And it's a little unusual, right? Because usually you'll see pitchers go for a little bit better return than hitters at the deadline. But this is a really odd circumstance because there's a lot of teams that not only need offense, but just happen to have pretty big holes at third base, right? Of course, yeah.
Right.
And, the Yankees, the Mariners, the Cubs, the Reds are in on that now. Even the Brewers, there's at least 5 teams and maybe 1 or 2 more that could really use an upgrade at third base, and teams that are, very much likely in the playoff hunt. And with the kind of year that Suarez has had, he's hit 55, 57 home runs, whatever it is, over the last 162 games. I mean, he's been on, a world-class heater here. So the combination of this player being who he is and the power he provides and how hot he's been over the last 12 calendar months and the clear need for so many teams, you got to put him at the top of the list. And, I do think that whereas teams normally wouldn't overpay for a slugger in this situation, this year they really might.
Yeah.
So, everybody else is saying he's as good as gone, and that's the smart money. Then of course you have Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. I mean, everybody wants pitching, right? Or, almost everybody needs pitching. The Blue Jays have been reported to be very interested in Zach Gallen, but, Merrill Kelly's better. I mean, it's just that simple. Merrill Kelly's a better pitcher and has been in aggregate since, if you go 2022 till today, Merrill Kelly has a higher ERA plus than Zach Gallen. And certainly since mid-season 23, he's been a better pitcher. He was hurt last year, but, he had a really good 23, great postseason. He's, in the top 20, 25 pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. And he's just been very consistent. So, the market for him should be very strong, but there is a market for Gallen. The Mariners are looking also for first base help. And so, Josh Naylor has been talked about. So if you want to say like the top 3 that are likely to be traded, I don't really know. I mean, it's really impossible to predict. I know what I would do. I would hold out, come heck or high water for the best possible return on Kelly and Suarez and just kind of take what I can get with Gallen and Naylor. So I would trade Gallen and Naylor. Naylor's a pretty good hitter, but his defense is really, really weak. And so from a, total value standpoint, it actually negates a lot of his hitting. And in the case of Gallen, I mean, we're going to talk about him too, I guess, in a minute, but he's a change of scenery candidate. I don't think he's going to get any better here in Arizona. So, hold the line on Suarez and Kelly, really make sure you get the return that you need, and move the other guys.
I just wanted to confirm one thing you said, because when you said Merrill Kelly's a better pitcher than Zach Gallen, I get definitely like where you're coming from with that. But I had to look at the numbers because, like, for example, in fantasy drafts, Zach Gallen was like a top 150 pick, whereas Merrill Kelly's like a guy who's going around pick 300. So it is interesting. I looked up the past 3 years. ERA for Merrill Kelly, 3.45. For Zach Gallen, 4.06. So pretty big difference there. That shows, confirms what you said. He's just,
and it's been going down for Gallen.
And it's been going down. Year. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think, that was one of the topics I believe you guys wanted to discuss, like what's wrong with him. So we may as well just dive in here.
Yeah.
I think with Zach, what I gleaned out of, a lot of deep dives into his data and watching him over the second half of 2023, he started to get hit around a bit. He was still coming into the zone, but then like over the last 5-6 weeks of the season, he kind of got scared out of the zone a little bit. His strike percentage went down a tick. His walk percentage went up a bit. He didn't have a great postseason. And then last year, it was really up and down. He started to nibble a lot more shorter outings where, high pitch count to get through 5 1/3, more walks. ZRA popped up to 3.64, I think. Walk rate was up compared to the previous couple of years. And then this year, of course, that trend got much worse. And it's very simple. Like, he's not fooling guys. He comes into the zone and he's getting smashed. And when he nibbles around the edges, a lot of times it's not very competitive, and he ends up walking a lot of guys, and he gets forced back into the zone, and boom, there goes. He got hammered by Bryce Matthews the other day of the Astros, and that was, the first one was a fastball, middle, but top of the zone, and Matthews was able to jump all over it and drive it out. And then there was a slider, that was just kind of thigh high. Just kind of hung in there, and boom, that went out too. Guy drove in 5 of the 6 runs Gallen gave up. So I think that in order to get some deception back, maybe tweak his movement, he needs a new voice. He's not going to get fixed by the Diamondbacks. They've tried everything. He's tried everything. he's going to need to go somewhere else. The thing is because of his pedigree that you were just talking about, that extends not only from fantasy baseball, but also into real life, there are teams that are going to believe that they can fix Zach Gallen, that they have the solution. I am sure that there are coaches watching video of him, there's scouts watching him, and going back to their front office and saying, yeah, he's a mess, but we can fix him. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a couple of teams out there like that. So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, if he goes somewhere else and has a big turnaround, it's going to be pretty damning on the Diamondbacks, pitching coaches and development staff.
Yeah.
So Jack, if he goes somewhere else or any other players get dealt, that probably opens up some opportunities on the Diamondbacks. Can you maybe identify some of these opportunities that might come?
Sure. So, on the position player side, if Suarez is dealt and Naylor is dealt, or one of them, Jordan Lawler, of course, is a potential call up to play third base. However, on June 26th, I was told by the director of player development that he was going to be out at least a month with a hamstring injury. And here we are a month later. I texted him today in anticipation of this show. Unfortunately, I didn't get a response to ask if he'd started baseball activities yet. I don't think he has. Yeah. So my guess is that Lawler's out probably at least another couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. But when he does come back, he will get if Suarez is traded, Lawler will get some run at third base. In the meantime, while waiting for Lawler, look for Blaze Alexander to get more playing time. He's been playing decently. He's done really well at second base, okay at third. He's gotten a few hits. So, he could get some time. And then over at first base, you have a couple of guys in the minors that might get called up. Tristan English and Tim Tower, who had been up. Tower had some run, got off to a good start, and then really slumped. And then you have, of course, Pavin Smith, who we're going to talk about his injuries in a minute. But if Naylor is dealt, then Smith will probably slot in at first base against right-handed pitching. And then you're just going to need somebody to platoon with him because he can't hit lefties at all. So in that case, maybe, like I said, English or Tower gets called up and they're platooning, with Smith.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Does Tawa play third base? Like, would he be? He does.
Tawa plays everything but catcher and shortstop and pitcher.
Okay. So
he's a super utility guy,
right? Do you think Blaze would be the first option at third base if Suarez is dealt while they wait for Lawler? Or you do? Okay.
Well, at least while waiting for Lawler, I do believe that. I mean, because he's on the roster now and he's playing okay. Tower slumped really bad and got sent down. But Blaze, he can be pretty streaky too. And if he starts slumping, then maybe Tower gets another shot.
Got it. Okay. All right. I want to talk about another player. Now, this player has not been disappointing overall, but a little bit disappointing for fantasy in terms of what we expected in terms of stolen bases, and that's Corbin Carroll. Right. I was surprised to see this season Corbin Carroll only has 13 stolen bases. He's off his pace quite a bit from what he did last year. Any specific reason for that decline, or do you think that's just kind of variance and we can expect him getting back to the prolific base stealer that he was last year?
Well, first off, mea culpa, because at the beginning of the year, I told you guys I thought it was a very easy chance for him to get to 30 steals this year. Mm-hmm. And clearly that's not on the docket. He's been caught 4 times. Several of those came early. The Diamond, I think his stolen base percentage is 76%. And the Diamondbacks really, they're philosophically opposed to base stealing at this point because they just don't believe it pays off unless you're over 80% success rate. It's all about the math. They sit there and they time the catcher pop times and the pitcher's time to the plate. And if they think they have the time that they want and need, then they go. And if they don't get the time, they don't. And Dave McKay, the best base running coach in the league, stands there with his stopwatch, in the middle of every inning out there at first base. And he's timing it. And he's telling them, yeah, we don't have the time, or we do have the time. So, at this point, I would not be very hopeful for Carroll to run wild. On the other hand, he could go on a stolen base jag and all of a sudden turn around still 6 in a week. Mm-hmm. But, for fantasy baseballers, they need to understand Diamondbacks are not into it unless they feel really confident that they have, over 80% success rate chances. And they haven't hit that this year. So the more times they've been thrown out, the more hesitant they've been to allow guys to run.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, you touched on this earlier about the bullpen and injuries. It's really tough for us playing fantasy because we're always looking for saves. But with the Diamondbacks, it's such a mess right now, and we're always trying to scrounge around for anything that we can get. So who would be your pick for the Diamondbacks leader in saves for the rest of the season?
If he's able to come back healthy, Shelby Miller had a forearm strain. He's getting close to returning. He's actually today he was throwing a live bullpen. It's his second live bullpen, live ABs. Whether or not he's going to have to go out on a rehab assignment, a lot of times they don't do that. They just let the guy, throw a couple live ABs and then send him back out with the team. If that all goes well, it would not surprise me to see him join the team by Sunday in Pittsburgh or Monday in Detroit at the latest. Now, if he needs one more outing, then it would be, obviously pushed back till the end of the month. Now, the other thing is he's a free agent too, so maybe they want to showcase him, prove he's healthy, so that get him in a game, show that he's healthy, so that they can then trade him July 31st. So if he's not traded and if he comes back healthy, then Shelby Miller is going to be the closer. There's no question about that. The problem is the bullpen is still such a mess. I don't know who's going to get the ball to him.
Yeah.
My advice is Shelby Miller or stay away. Just stay away from the Diamondbacks bullpen. Really, it's a mess.
I learned my lesson a couple weeks ago. I picked up Kevin Ginkel off of waivers, and I didn't feel great about it, but I'm like, all right, at least, it's something. Like Dave said, we're desperate. And that is not worked out. So Shelby Miller or pass.
Yeah, that's it.
That makes sense. And it's so interesting too, like how far they've fallen, obviously just because of injury. You went into the season with two lockdown guys. We were debating, do we take Justin Martinez? Do we take AJ Puck? And we're like, either way, this bullpen should be pretty dominant, and they've just been ravaged this season by injury.
An interesting little note there. I mean, not one pitcher currently in that bullpen was on the team's opening day roster because Ginkel started the year on the IL, and the other 7 guys some of them weren't even in the organization, a lot of them. And, the injuries, like just one after another. I mean, it wasn't just Puck or Martinez, right?
Yeah.
Manaply got bounced out and DFA'd, and, Ryan Thompson's on the IL, Shelby's on the IL, Jalen Beeks is on the IL. I mean, just one after another just got hurt. And the second line got hurt. Christian Mena, Kyle Ament, Christian Montes de Oca. These were all guys, Trey Jameson. These were all guys that were considered, the next line of defense for the bullpen down in Reno, and they all got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just wild. And now we got, Trevor Richards and Jake Woodford and Anthony DeSclafani. I mean, they basically got a bunch of journeyman cast-off long relievers and forced into high-leverage roles. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. Even still, the Diamondbacks are 50-53, which I have to say is an accomplishment given the injuries they've suffered. But
they got the 4th best offense in baseball.
Yeah, that'll help. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be back with Jack. All right, we are back. Speaking of waivers, let's talk about somebody who was a really popular pickup off of waivers this past weekend. And this is someone that you told us about last year when we asked you about someone in the Diamondback system we should be looking at. You gave us the name Adrian Del Castillo, and he got called up last Friday and again was a popular pickup this past Sunday. Since his call up, though, he's only started at DH, and he has sat. They've played 3 lefties in a row earlier this week, and he sat against all of them. Do you see those playing time patterns continuing? And what are your expectations for Del Castillo in terms of his performance?
The answer to your first question is yes, I do see that playing time pattern continuing. That's exactly what they said they were going to do when he came up. Torey Lovello told us, he's going to DH against right-handed pitching. It's not that he can't hit lefties, but they use that DH spot to rotate in Ketel Marte, and they gave Gino Suarez a day there and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. a day there. So what they do is they go with their left-hand DH against righties, and then they use the DH slot to give their right-handed hitters a day, kind of half day off. So that's pretty much what they've done. And Del Castillo's taken Pavin Smith's place because Pavin Smith's on the IL with an oblique injury. He's nearing return too, though. He's probably back within 2 weeks, could be less. He's already been taking dry swings and I think hitting off a tee and kind of doing light work. He's probably, I would say, a minimum 1 week to maybe maximum 2 to coming back. And they really like Pavin Smith still. So despite his, 2-month slump. So, I don't know how much more run Del Castillo is going to get when Smith comes back, unless they trade Naylor. Okay. Then Smith slots into first base. Del Castillo gets to stick around and be the DH against right-handed starters.
Got it.
Can you give us an update on Gabriel Moreno? I know he's been out a while and things just aren't looking as good as they should, are they?
Yeah. So in his case, the fracture in his finger is the throwing hand, the knuckle below the I think they call metacarpal, this section.
Yeah.
And that fracture still hasn't healed. I mean, he's had follow-up MRIs and CT scans and still not completely healed. And he's still not cleared for baseball activities. He had been transferred to the 60-day IL. So he's not even eligible to come off that IL until August 15. But he hasn't resumed baseball activities yet. And from the time he does that, as long as he's been out, he's going to need time to ramp back up. Now, he is doing some stuff, as much as he can without endangering. He can't swing a bat or grip a bat. He's not really throwing, but he was, catching bullpens and then just, dropping the ball down on the side and that kind of thing, running and all of that, and trying to keep his body as good as possible. But he cannot return before August 15th. And, right now, until we see him actually conducting baseball activities, it could go even longer than that.
Jeez.
Okay. Now let's assume that if they keep Naylor, if they keep Naylor and Pavin Smith goes back into that role as a strong side platoon at DH, would they put Del Castillo at catcher, or would they stick with Jose Herrera there and maybe send Del Castillo back down?
They would send Del Castillo back down.
Okay.
Despite the lack of offense, they really like Jose Herrera behind the plate and his clubhouse presence and, that all that stuff, which, fantasy baseballers, we don't love to hear it, but
no, we don't like to hear about all that stuff. We're just here for the numbers.
James McCann is doing pretty well. I mean, he's hit some since he's come back. And, so he's splitting the time with Herrera. Herrera's out of options, so he can't be sent down, whereas Del Castillo still has options.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Del Castillo's defense is pretty terrible.
Okay.
Can't throw anybody out.
Okay, so he's kind of his future is looking more like DH, maybe first base type of thing.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you gave us Del Castillo last year. I think you're going to give us another good one this year. I'm going to ask you the same question. Who is one player currently in the Diamondbacks minor league system that fantasy gamers should be paying attention to based on their performance this season?
Yeah, he's probably, because he hasn't been promoted to AAA yet. But there's a guy that I really like that I think is going to debut next year. So if you guys are in the Keeper League, Lou James Groover.
Okay.
Lou James Groover. He's known as Gino Groover, but he goes by Lou James, which was his grandfather's name, and he asked the media to refer to him as Lou James.
I mean, the name alone, that's a solid name. So for anybody listening, it's LUJAMES. That's the first name, and then Groover. So, okay, very good. Tell us about Lou James Groover.
Well, he can hit. It's just that simple. I mean, the guy is he very seldom goes more than, almost never goes 2 consecutive hitless games. He's got his bat stays in the zone a really long time. He's got developing power, and he's really improved at third base. Prior to this year, he was like kind of bouncing back and forth between first and third. And this year they just said, nope, you're going to play third base. So, if Lawler doesn't stick at third base and he's struggling, at some point next year, Groover would be the next man up there. And personally, I think Groover's bat's actually going to play better than Lawler's long-term in the major leagues.
Really?
Yeah, because I think Lawler strikes out too much.
Okay.
And he really has trouble with breaking pitches. Whereas Groover, he keeps his bat in the zone. He's got a little flatter bat path. And so I think that he's able to react better to breaking pitches. And so I think as he continues to move up through the system and into the major leagues, there's a better chance of him sticking. So if you're in a deepish keeper league, Lou James Groover is a guy to watch.
Okay.
Good.
I'll write that down. Can you give us an interesting behind-the-scenes story from your time on the beat this season? I'm sure.
Well, it's funny. I've been thinking about this question, and it's really tough. I would say that despite everything that the Diamondbacks have gone through, the kind of cool thing is they still have a really good clubhouse, and Eugenio Suarez is just a terrific guy. I mean, what you see is what you get. Sure, he's human. He has his moments of frustration just like everybody else. But that guy, he exudes positivity that's genuine. And at the same time, like whenever he talks to you, he focuses in on you and makes sure that you know that you're the most important person in the room. And that kind of, but he does so with a big smile and just effervescence that, it's really something. Yesterday, he was, he went 0 for 4 and they lost the game and he was frustrated and the media wanted to talk to him. And the last thing he wanted to do was talk trade deadline stuff again because he keeps getting hounded on that. And I saw him talking to the media guy and he was like, oh man, I just went 0 for 4 and we lost the game. And then he just turned around and just manned up and was very nice, Gino, all over again, just being very open and honest with people. He's just like that. Like he walks into the room and he just lights it up. So I just wanted to, that's why everyone loves the guy. I mean, what he brings to the field, that whole good vibes only thing, it's absolutely real. It's genuine.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome to hear. And I'm hoping that he's going to be manning third base for my Yankees. We could use his production on the field and also in the clubhouse, it sounds like, everything I've heard. And you even, you wrote recently about him just taking on a leadership role with the team, with the Diamondbacks. So, just seems like a all-around great get for whoever is able to acquire him if he does move. All right. So we are going to transition, Jack, to we're going to move away from baseball stuff. And we do this at the end of every show. We spend some time talking about, we call it our mental health minute. And we talk about things that we are doing to maintain our physical and or mental wellness. And, we wanted to include you in this because, again, you're basically one of our co-hosts at this point. So I'm going to throw that question to you. I know that you're super busy during the year, especially. So the question is, how do you keep your head on straight? How do you maintain your wellness despite all of your responsibilities and everything going on around you?
I would say two things. It's activities. First of all, I'm not great at this part, so I need a lot of work. But I would say that number one, out in my backyard here, we have a pretty extensive vegetable garden. And so getting, it's hot here in Arizona. You get out there at 6:30 in the morning and, spend some time in the garden and watering plants and cultivating and harvesting and just doing that. It's very therapeutic. I have a backyard composting operation. And there's a very weird satisfaction I get when the garbage starts to smell like dirt.
It's all good.
So, I think that's really one thing. And then the other thing for me, being an old dude and having grandkids, is it's extremely therapeutic for me to get out and watch them play sports, whether they play baseball, they play football, they play basketball. So just going to youth sports and soaking it in and being around the grandkids and watching them play. Those two activities are probably the things that like keep me grounded and remind me, what's important in life.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Good stuff. Dave, I'm going to pass it to you, man. How have you been and what have you been trying to do to maintain your wellness?
Well, for my personal wellness, I'm a teacher, so I'm off this summer, but it's been anything but a vacation for me. Just doing a lot of cleaning and organizing, and my father-in-law's belongings came here. And let me tell you, when I tell you he was an avid collector of sporting goods, the collection of things in this house are aged, they are extensive, they're organized. But right now I have a living room full of bins that I've been organizing daily of cards and baseball bats and autographs. So for me, getting things organized is I've grown into someone who just needs this done this way, this way. I'm usually an easygoing guy, but getting things organized and in place, and I guess I'm turning into an A-type personality?
Okay. Yeah.
With age, I think I'm turning into an A-type personality, because when I look over there, I feel stressed. So every day I'm tackling one or two bins just to try and get some organization in my life. So for me, keeping things organized it really helps my mental wellness.
Mm-hmm. And you found some pretty cool stuff that you sent us some pictures of, right? I mean, there's some pretty valuable stuff in there.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff. He did all the All-Star Game fan fests, and he got autographs from anyone and everyone. Like, he's got some Don Mattingly autographs. He's got some Roberto Clemente. He's got Ken Griffey Jr. bats. It's outstanding. This man saw the world, traveled the world, and brought it back with him. So it's been pretty cool.
That's fantastic. I'd love to see some of those pictures.
Yeah. I'll take some pictures of some of the best things, and I'll send them your way.
All right, good. So for me, I'm going to focus a little bit more on like the physical wellness. Something that I've been doing over the past couple of weeks that I feel like has been helpful is just really paying attention to how I'm feeling after I eat certain things, and the things that are making me feel not so great, just cutting them out. Like I don't know. I kind of had like this mentality, like, I could eat whatever I want. And for like most of my life, I could, I could just eat anything. You had a stomach like a rock or whatever. Like, I kind of took pride in that. But I'm getting older now, and my body is not responding as well to certain things. So, I was starting to have some like GI issues and kind of like fatigue. And I'm like, something's off. And so I've just kind of been experimenting and cutting out certain things. One thing, like, I love bread and pasta, limiting that, and also trying like gluten-free stuff, which I like never thought I would like look at gluten-free. I'm like, come on, I don't need that. Like, I was like almost like too tough for that. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just try it and see. And I got to say, man, I do feel much better, like eliminating certain things like that. So yeah, I think my takeaway from that and the advice I'd like to impart is just pay attention to your body, pay attention to what it's telling you. And obviously what you put in your body is super important. So really be thoughtful about what that is. So that is my advice for this week, but we are going to leave it there. Jack, it was a pleasure having you on again. If you could tell our listeners where they can find you on social media and where they could find your work.
Sure. So at ShoeWizard59 on X platform is where you'll find my social media. And then you can go over to Diamondbacks on SI. If you go to si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks, then you can get to our website and you can find the writings of myself and Alex D'Agostino. covering all things Diamondbacks. And then on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, you can also listen to us on the Snakes Territory podcast.
Awesome. Good stuff. I got to shout you out, Jack, because I think you are one of the only guests that we have on. We've had plenty of beat writers on. You always bring great information, like I said. But I know that you look at that outline and you come prepared for the show every time, right? Like Dave, I really don't think, like, we send the outline in advance as like a courtesy thing because we don't want anybody like be caught off guard.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure when we send it to like most of the people we have on the show, like they maybe glance at it and they're just like, kind of whatever. So appreciate you, Jack, for always like really.
Well, I got a lot of respect for you guys. You guys do tremendous work, and you deserve the best that I can give to you guys when I come on the show. So it's about respect for you.
Well, thank you, Jack.
Appreciate that. Right back at you.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we are going to leave it there for this week. We'll be back with another episode next week. And Mike Carter, hopefully, he was supposed to be with us, but he should be back with us next week. But for Mike Carter, for Dave Funnell, I'm Chris Torres. Thank you for listening to Fantasy Baseball Beat.